All right, I believe I am live on Facebook. I am letting everyone into the workshop now, so everyone's going to be joining slowly. Hopefully you guys can hear me all right. Hopefully you can see me. Let me know if everything is working according to plan. I'm going to bring this up on my phone as well so I can see the comments if there are any from people watching on Facebook. And checking the sound. All right, it is good. So we are live and welcome everyone. If you want to turn your camera on, go ahead. If you want to keep it off, that is fine as well. So let's just dive in. We've got kind of a lot to cover. I'm going to do my best to keep this to 60 minutes. There's a lot that I wanted to include. So hopefully we'll get it all in 60 minutes. And if not, then we'll go a little bit over, but if you can't stay the whole time, you can catch the replay as well. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Melissa Conkling. I am a spiritual hypnotist and writer, and I have been on kind of a long journey that has all brought me to kind of where we are right now. When I actually started planning this workshop, I planned on just doing kind of a basic intro to self-hypnosis, and we'll dive into what that really means in a few minutes. But as I started looking at the different results that I had and different results that some of my clients have had from both clients that I worked with one-on-one, different workshops I've done, different even just like coaching calls, one of the biggest things that I was realizing is that a lot of it had to do with creativity in some way in their lives, whether it's actually like creating art or writing or whatever that is, or just kind of growing their business, figuring out what it is they are meant to be creating in their lives. Because if you saw my post from earlier today, and I think I posted it on something yesterday too, maybe my personal page, if you are on that, so many people confuse creativity with artistry, and they are two very different things. You can be artistic and a really good technical painter, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're creative. In my mind, the way I think of it differently is how we're expressing it and where that inspiration is really coming from. If you are too caught up in like the technical details of just making something look perfect, it almost takes the creativity out of it. That's the difference between artistry and creativity a lot of times. So what I realized is that I was helping both myself and other people kind of draw that creative inspiration out in whatever it is they're working on. And it's one of those things that I started, as I mentioned, just planning a regular self-hypnosis workshop, and all of a sudden I was writing this copy and it all came together with creativity. So that is what we are focusing on today. That's why the subtitle is Tapping into Your Inner Guidance to Unleash Your Creativity. So that's just a little bit about how this workshop came about and all that good stuff. I'm just realizing that I am not seeing the chat in here. So let me see. If anyone has any questions, just put them in the chat for me. Feel free to put them in there. I'm going to be trying to do my best to keep up with them. I do want to let everyone know if I don't see your questions in the chat, it's not because I'm ignoring you. I have a little bit of an outline of the points I want to touch on, but so much of what I do is really more of a stream of conscious thing. So I often don't necessarily pay attention because I kind of lose my train of thought. So that's why I'm kind of scattered right now, because I'm letting everyone in and getting everyone on board. I am going to mute everyone just so we can keep the recording clean for everyone. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. I gave you a little bit of my background of how this workshop came about, which it wasn't necessarily planned this way, but I realized in planning that pretty much everything over almost exactly the past decade has all been kind of leading up to this. In the fall of 2013, I decided to go back to grad school. I was 35 and wanted to get my master's in theater. I had gotten my bachelor's in theater when I was younger, but never really did anything. So I wanted to get back into that and wanted to kind of reintroduce myself into that field. So I ended up getting my master's in theater. And then when I was done, it was kind of a I was in a tough spot because I was overqualified for all of the entry-level positions because I had been working for 10 years, but yet not having that theater background and experience work-wise that people were looking for. So it was kind of a little tough spot to actually, make a living as a late 30s-year-old where I, was supporting myself. And in the theater world, that's a tough one. So ended up going back to real estate, which I had worked in previously. And then a couple years down the road, I ended up kind of discovering hypnosis somewhat by accident. I've shared this story with a lot of people, but it really was just seeing one marketing course on hypnotic marketing. And it was done by the person that I then trained with hypnosis through, who Tiffany knows, who is on here. And she also trained with her as well. And that kind of moved everything into a new realm. And I really started focusing on building my hypnosis business, really focusing on kind of more traditional things in the beginning, working on fears and phobias, working on weight loss, helping people kind of build more confidence, all of these other different things that are much more traditional type things that you think of with hypnosis. But as I was building that business, and I was really focusing in on the weight loss niche, because when I first started, that is who was coming to me. It was not necessarily something that I chose. It was who was finding me, because everyone had heard about that and it worked. And I ended up building a really good business for a couple, like a year or two, probably 2 years. It was pretty solid, easy to find. But the problem is I was getting really bored with it, because that whole creative side that I really wanted to get back into was being entirely ignored. And all along, pretty much forever, I've been always interested in spiritual things. And I was getting more and more interested in spiritual stuff throughout the time. Even as I discovered hypnosis, I was thinking of becoming a meditation instructor. And then when I found hypnosis, I was like, oh, wait, that's a better fit for me. And I didn't know why quite yet. I just knew it was. And it was interesting because at that point in time, I really didn't know much about hypnosis, but I just knew that it was the right thing. And I just kind of dove in head first and went for it. So as I was getting more and more into the spiritual stuff, I realized that I wanted to change the direction of my business away from the weight loss niche, because I was pretty much just bored with it. It was great for my clients and I loved helping them, but I wasn't getting any personal fulfillment from it. It just wasn't what I'm meant to do. And I knew that. So I started moving in a more spiritual direction, started working with really kind of finding what your purpose is, which moved into working with spirit guides. And throughout all of this process, what I was doing personally, connecting with my guides more, getting in touch with my intuition a whole lot more, really learning to trust that inner guidance. One of the biggest things that was being called back was that creativity, and not just as a hobby, really being called to write. And it's interesting because as someone who was in theater forever, what I did was I supported playwrights. I helped them develop their play. And it's interesting because now what I've been doing with clients is kind of drawing that creativity out of them and drawing it out of myself as well in the process. And that's so much what I did within theater as a dramaturge. So it fits so perfectly. But what I found is that as I was getting more in touch with the spiritual elements in life, all of a sudden my creativity was opening up again in a whole new way. And that's kind of how everything has come full circle in the past 10 years. And about 6 months ago, I had a call with my coach, and she guided me through meditation. And one of the things in that, it was all about visualizing the future and what we saw ourselves doing. And in that, one of the big things and she was kind of using her intuition to tap into it as well. But my thing was hosting writing retreats. And this is something that I knew that I wanted to do for at least 8 years. And that goes back to being at the Kennedy Center doing this training and having someone tell me about how much she loved running writing retreats. And I was like, ooh, I want to do that. But I never thought that I'd actually be able to do that. It's who am I to run writing retreats, right? But then as I started looking at the results that I have both with myself and with my clients and helping them draw out that creativity in different ways, all of a sudden I'm like, wait, I think it might be time to actually do this. So that is what this workshop is really step one of, is really kind of tapping into that creativity using self-hypnosis. So let's start talking about what hypnosis is. I know we're all kind of on different levels about that. Tiffany, I know you know exactly what hypnosis is. You are a phenomenal hypnotist, but everyone else here might need a little bit of a background. So I'm going to give that for everyone who's watching here and on the replay, just so we're all kind of on the common ground. So let me know if you have any questions as I get started. First, let's talk about our mind. There are two main parts of our mind. We have our conscious mind and our subconscious mind. Now, our conscious mind is that part of us that really does stuff for us. It's that getting dinner on the table, getting us to work on time, all those, logical things that get us through the day-to-day life. We need that part of our mind. It's really, really important. We wouldn't get much done without it, but we kind of rely on it really, really heavily. And it's only about 5 to 10% of our mind power. The rest is all our subconscious mind. Now that runs our body, like our digestion, our circulation, our breathing, all that kind of stuff. It's also where all of our beliefs and habits and behaviors are really informed from. They inform our actions from our conscious mind, but they're really built in our subconscious mind through what we've learned, things we've overheard, just patterns throughout our lives. Can come from kind of anywhere, because our subconscious mind remembers everything that we ever experience. So that's kind of why we can kind of hold on to little comments that we heard one time and we'll remember it forever, because it's always back there in our subconscious mind somewhere. We might not even remember where it came from, but that idea can still hang out there for forever. So our subconscious mind, which is where our body runs from, our behaviors, our habits, our beliefs, it's also where our intuition comes from. It's where our imagination comes from, and it's where creativity comes from. There's a whole lot in our subconscious mind, our emotions, so many different things, because our subconscious mind, as opposed to our conscious mind, is the other 90 to 95% of our mind power. Now, in addition to those two parts of our mind, which are personal to us as individuals, there's also the superconscious. And the superconscious is pretty much like, it's thought of as many different things. It could be the universe, it could be the spiritual realm, it could be a combination of the two, however you choose to perceive that. But it's basically all that is, and it's where all of the ideas that come into existence are. That's why two people on different sides of the globe can have the exact same idea at the same time, because that idea is out there looking for people. And that's what we're going to tap into in hypnosis to really unleash that creativity, because creativity is really all about finding those ideas that are meant for us, not just an idea, because not every idea we ever have is meant for us. Some are meant to hang out with us for a little while, and then we pass them along to someone else who they're better suited for. Some we might get bored with, and they were good for a little while. Some are meant to be part of our life for forever. And it's all about collecting the ideas and then figuring out which ones are best for you and letting them grow. Because I feel like so often we have an idea and we hold on to it so tightly and focus only on that we ignore the other ideas that we may have. And that's one of the things that I'm going to be working on a lot in the 4-week course that I'm starting in about 2 weeks. So really building those ideas is key. And knowing those 3 parts of the mind is super important, because that's where hypnosis comes in. Because hypnosis is a state of lowered conscious mind activity where we get that logic out of the way and really tap into that subconscious part of our mind and let that come forward. And we can make a lot of changes there. That's why you can change your habits and beliefs and build confidence in all of these things when you're in hypnosis, because you're so much more receptive to learning new patterns in that state, because it's a perfect learning state pretty much. But it also taps you into the superconscious, where all of the ideas are. The subconscious mind is pretty much the bridge between your conscious everyday life and the universe and all of those ideas that are out there. So really learning how to use your intuition and creativity together to tap into those ideas and gather them and figure out which ones are best for you is how you're going to unleash that creativity. So that's where hypnosis comes in, because in that state, we have that bridge directly from our conscious self to the universe and all of that universal energy that's out there. So that's really how the subconscious mind and superconscious work together to bring it into our everyday life, and what hypnosis is in a nutshell. Hypnosis is one of those things where it can be experienced many, many different ways. Like I said, it's just a state of lowered conscious mind activity. That can be as simple as daydreaming. That is a state of hypnosis. That's why when you're in the shower, all of a sudden you have those great ideas and you figure out the problem or the solution to a problem, because you're in hypnosis. Your conscious mind isn't trying so hard to find that answer. It's just letting your subconscious find it for you when you're daydreaming, or when you're driving down the highway and kind of zone out and don't remember going from point A to point B, but you got there safely. It's because your subconscious mind was pretty much doing the driving and you were in hypnosis. But that's how you can experience it so many different ways. And it's something that we all experience every day. It's a very natural state. It's something that we pass through when we fall asleep at night. We pass through it when we wake up in the morning, because it's kind of that state between awake and asleep. And excuse me, I'm losing my voice a little today because my allergies have been awful. So ignore me if I lose my voice. I've got water handy, hopefully enough. But let me know if you have any questions on that and on what hypnosis is, because hypnosis is one of those things that can be defined in so many different ways. And I feel like so often people almost try to get a little too technical about it, when really all you need to know is it's that state of kind of presence where your conscious mind isn't in the way, where you're not overthinking, where you're not kind of prejudging everything, which is why it helps with creativity, because what gets in the way of creativity? Trying to judge it and compare it to everything else you're doing or what everyone else is doing and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what hypnosis is in a nutshell. Again, that's something I could go into much, much more, and will in the future and do in my membership and all that kind of stuff. But for now, that's enough for what we need to know. Now, what is the difference between hypnosis and self-hypnosis? There really isn't. All hypnosis is self-hypnosis, because me as a hypnotist, if I'm working with a client, the only thing I'm doing is guiding you into hypnosis. You're doing it yourself. You're having that visualization. You're bringing your mind into that state. I'm just guiding you there, and I know how to do it, and I know how to recognize it. That's all a hypnotist does. It always kind of makes me laugh, because no one would ever say that a meditation instructor meditated someone, but we say a hypnotist hypnotized someone. And it's really just kind of a misleading statement, because you're hypnotizing yourself, just like you're meditating yourself, you're napping yourself, you're sleeping yourself. No one else is doing this for you. It's just being guided through it. So that's pretty much the same thing. Like, what I mean by self-hypnosis is just you learning how to do it on your own. So all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. It's just a matter of learning to rely on yourself and not needing someone to guide you anymore through it. That could be through hypnosis recordings. That's self-hypnosis, because you're just listening. And as you listen to recordings more and more, you also learn how to do it yourself more and more as well, because you know what to expect. The more you experience hypnosis, the better you get at going into hypnosis, because you know what it feels like. You know when to let yourself go. And you also know when you're just not in the right mindset for it, which is kind of key, because one of the biggest ways you can keep yourself from going into hypnosis is trying too hard and overthinking it. So if you know you're not in the right mindset for it, you're going to be overthinking it. You're going to be trying too hard. You're going to be forcing it. And that's what keeps you from going into hypnosis in the first place. So self-hypnosis, like I said, is just learning how to do it on your own. So how do we do that? That's the fun part. And the fun part is it's actually not that difficult. It's kind of just like everything else, learning how to recognize it, learning what it feels like for you, accepting that it might not feel the same way every single time. That is key. And, knowing how to do it. So step one, closing your eyes. Interesting thing about closing your eyes, when you close your eyes, you pretty much automatically go into a light state of hypnosis. That's why when you close your eyes, you're able to visualize things so much easier. You pick up on different things. Your intuition kind of picks up a little bit more. Your senses change because you're going into a state of hypnosis, and that conscious overthinking mind goes to the background instantly. I think that's why teachers, when we were younger, used to turn the lights off in a classroom, because it calms us down. And I think it's, getting rid of that conscious mind a little bit. So step one, closing your eyes. Step two, now this changes for everyone. One of the big ways is just giving yourself a hug like this. It's kind of weird, but something about doing that, just holding yourself, calms your nervous system. So just doing that for a couple seconds, relaxing your body. One of the things I like to do is also rub my hands together, kind of like I'm getting ready to meditate. And then here's the big key, relaxing yourself just a little bit. In self-hypnosis, when you're not being guided by a hypnotist or by a recording, you almost don't want to let yourself go too deep into hypnosis, because then you're not going to be able to guide yourself through it. So what I like to do, and what I have my clients do, is just imagine a ball of energy, of relaxing energy floating above you, and then closing your eyes and imagining it waving through your body, bringing that relaxation down. For some people, it helps to imagine their face relaxing, their neck relaxing, their shoulders relaxing, bit by bit throughout your body. For me, when I'm guiding newer clients, I go deep into that with each body part. But as I get better and better at it myself, I can feel it right now. Even as I'm talking about this, I can feel it already sinking down into my knees and my feet, and feeling that tingly. Like when I start noticing my fingers and my toes tingling, for me, that's a sign that I know I'm going into hypnosis. And it's interesting because right now, just as I'm talking about it, I can feel it, even though I don't even have my eyes closed. So little things like that. So that is one of my favorite techniques. So you may want to try that. As I guided you through it, Doreen, I saw you kind of going through that, but practicing that. And that's one of those things where it's such a simple thing to do, and you can do it with intent in self-hypnosis when you're like bringing yourself into that zone. But it's also a wonderful way to just relax yourself at any given time. Anytime you're like stressed out about something, spend 30 seconds doing that. And it's something you can do literally anywhere. And it takes like no time at all. And if the wave of relaxation through your body doesn't work for you, because everyone's a little bit different, another thing that you can do is just imagine yourself walking down a set of stairs. And with each step, allowing yourself to relax more and more and more with each step. And make sure you set a number of steps. Otherwise, you can just keep going forever. 10 is usually a good number. But because it's self-hypnosis, you don't want to go too far, because if you do, eventually you'll fall asleep. And that is not the intent, unless it is your intent. If you're doing this at night and you're going to sleep, by all means, keep going down those stairs. But for this purpose, when we're talking about using this to really boost that creativity, we don't want to go too far. So just bring yourself into that nice level of perfect relaxation. And this is where you also really get to start tuning into your intuition and trusting yourself, because trusting yourself in this process is key. Because when we're talking about creativity, when we're talking about our intuition, when we're talking about anything spiritual, it really takes an act of faith. And so does hypnosis. It takes that act of trusting yourself, of knowing like, this is where I need to be right now. And just letting yourself go, not overthinking it, not trying too hard. Just trust yourself and know, okay, this is where I feel good right now. And now, with those techniques of self-hypnosis, what do we do once we're there to really start boosting our creativity? Now, one thing I like to do, and I have mentioned this, and I have talked about this quite a bit in my Facebook group and in other stuff, talking to your spirit guides. Now, your spirit guides can pretty much be however you perceive them to be. Sometimes people have met with their specific team of spirit guides. You could be talking to God, Jesus, Mother Mary. If that is your thing, you could be talking to your guardian angel, could be talking to a specific archangel, however you choose to. You could even just be speaking to your higher self, whatever it may be. Call that in, call in that part of you. For creative stuff, I have my guides, my spirit guides. I have one that is dedicated to creativity. So I call in that guide. For some people, it may be easier to just call in their creativity. Make it simple for yourself. Just call on your creativity until you have that concrete thing that you know works for you. Call on your creativity. However you imagine it is perfect for you. It could be a person, it could be an image, it could be some weird little alien, I don't know. I did an energy clearing one time and she had me identifying all of these different emotions and they were coming in as like fluffy little animals. It was the strangest thing. So literally, however that creativity appears to you, just go with it. Don't overthink it. No one's going to judge you. And you don't have to tell anyone about it if you don't want to. So whatever works for you, however you imagine that creativity, don't ask it to do anything for you. Just ask it a simple question of, what do I need to know right now? And this is also a great way when you're working with any spirit guides. Asking what you need to know right now is the first thing I always ask, because so often we like go into these creative endeavors or intuitive things or talking to spirit guides, looking for a solution to a specific problem. But very often my cat is trying to knock something over there. She's been crazy tonight because I have not paid enough attention to her today. But sometimes we go in there looking for a concrete solution to a concrete problem, but that's not really the problem or issue that needs to be solved first. It's kind of the symptom of something else. So just ask what you need to know right now. And I think with creativity, it comes to the same thing, because we all think that there's one way we're supposed to express our creativity, whatever that may be. And if something else is underneath the surface that might interest you a little bit more, whether it's a different idea for a book or an idea for a course you feel like creating or whatever it may be, just ask your creativity what it has to share with you and let it tell you, let it answer. Now, answering can come in a number of ways. It could come through in words. It could like a conversation, like in your mind. It could come through as different symbols or signs. It could come through as just a feeling. I worked with someone last week to get in touch with one of her spirit guides, and the overall feeling was just a feeling of reassurance. And that was pretty much like she saw the guide very clearly, saw what he was wearing, saw what he looked like, but the feeling was just one of reassurance from some things that she had gone through recently. So whatever that feeling may be, just take note of it. Don't overthink it. Don't judge it. But just ask your creativity what it has to share with you right now. And it may be one idea. It might be several. And you might find that the more you do that, the more ideas keep coming through. And again, that's when you get to examine those ideas. Don't necessarily take that first one and just run with it if more are coming through, because just because one was first doesn't mean it's the best. It's kind of like dating. You know, you have to date your ideas a little bit. You don't always want to marry the first date you go on, but same with ideas. Just because you have the idea and it visits you for a little while from the superconscious doesn't necessarily mean it's the best idea for you to pursue long-term. So give yourself permission to not marry that idea quite yet, to not just take it and run with it. And I think that's especially important, like for entrepreneurs, because so often we have that good idea and it might be something that we know would be really successful. But the problem is, if your heart's not in it long-term, it doesn't matter. Like, example, me working with weight loss, like I knew my heart wasn't in it. And I did really well for a while. And then when I was bored, my business just stopped. It was kind of unfortunate, but I also knew that it was because my heart wasn't in it, because I took that first idea I had and ran with it and ignored every other idea I had in the midst, because everyone was like, no, just focus on that thing because you're just supposed to have your niche and that's all you're supposed to do. And in that 2-year period, I kind of ignored everything else that I had wanted to do, including this idea of having creativity involved with hypnosis somehow, which is something I did know I wanted to do in the beginning from like day one. I just didn't know how it was going to work yet because I had to experience it myself first, I'm pretty sure. But that's what brought me here today. So anyway, that is part 1 to like what you're going to do within self-hypnosis. I'm actually getting way ahead of myself. I forgot to even turn my page. So speaking to your guides, speaking to your creativity, speaking, if you want to call it your muse, call it whatever you want, go for it. Now, the way it can speak to you could be the signs, feelings, conversations. A really, really powerful way to really brainstorm is intuitive journaling. Again, kind of bringing yourself through that self-hypnosis practice of just relaxing yourself. Sometimes I like to put on some nice meditation music, set it for like 10 minutes, not super long, and just let my pen flow and let whatever come out. And don't judge it, don't overthink it, don't edit it while it's happening, just write down everything that's occurring to you. And when you go into that intuitive journaling with that intention to get in touch with your creativity, like you could write at the top of the page, inviting in my creativity, and then just journal and see what comes out for you. And those little practices will start ideas flowing. And you'll find that sometimes everything is pouring out super fast. Sometimes it's not, because we can't always be in that mode of super creation. And I think creative people, we always do want to be in that mode because it's fun. It's where we feel our best. But the fact is, at some point in time, we have to take the ideas and having those creative ideas into implementation. And implementation isn't always the fun part. It's the ideas and making the stuff. Like the making of everything happens before we're actually implementing half the time. So having those ideas and letting them flow, then fostering them, letting them kind of come into fruition, seeing which ones are panning out, it's huge. But that's why, this is also why intuitive journaling is my favorite, because then I can also go back to past journals. And I do this when I'm connect with my spirit guides and just regular intuitive journaling. And it's really interesting seeing how many of these things have like come back time and time and time again. And it's like, I'll be like, I wonder when that idea first came up, and I'll realize it was like a year and a half ago. I'm like, I thought I just had that idea last week. I'm like, no, it's been there for a while. I just forgot about it. But anyway, that is one of the things that I love, is that intuitive journaling. And like I said, just give yourself a short time. I'll put on meditation music and I'll let it kind of go. And I just know when I'm done. For me, it's usually about 10 minutes and then I'm done. Sometimes shorter, sometimes longer, but it's usually about 10 minutes. And calling in your creativity using different prompts. Like I said, asking those questions of, what do I need to know right now? What does my creativity have for me? You can even use self-hypnosis to really kind of evaluate the ideas and to start fleshing them out a bit. As I was outlining this workshop right now, I used self-hypnosis to really get that solid outline and really kind of figure out all of the points I wanted to make. And how could I do this in 60 minutes without keeping people here forever? Because I could talk about this for probably way too long and bore everyone to death. And I'd be asleep in front of my computer before long because I go to bed early. So that's why we're trying to keep this to an hour. So those are my 3 favorite ways to really start bringing that in through self-hypnosis, is really bringing in different writing prompts. And I mean, you could find writing prompts on anything, journaling, creative prompts. And rather than just using them and thinking about it consciously, bring yourself into self-hypnosis and then address those prompts, and it will be a very different experience than when you're consciously like trying to have good ideas. Trying to brainstorm is harder than allowing yourself to intuitively brainstorm. Just totally different experience. So using that self-hypnosis to really let yourself brainstorm those ideas so you can figure out which ones are the best for you is where you're going to really start unleashing that creativity and find the thing that really, really feels best for you. So those are the tips for unleashing your creativity through self-hypnosis. Yes, flowing instead of trying. Yes, trying is not good. And it's interesting. In the hypnosis world, there's a thing about the word try. I'm going to blow some secrets here. Trying, the word try presupposes failure. If you're going to try to make it to something, you know you're not going to that thing. You're giving yourself an out. You're just afraid to tell the person, no, I'm not going. Most of the time. Unless you literally have a conflict and you're trying, but chances are if you have a conflict, you have a conflict. But that's why, like, if you've ever seen or experienced how hypnotists can glue people's eyes shut or stick their hands together, feel bad blowing the secret right now. But the reason why it works is because when you're in hypnosis, you're following instructions. Your conscious mind isn't thinking about it, and your subconscious or your conscious mind isn't being like, of course I can open my mind. Your subconscious mind is doing exactly what it's being told because that's what it does. It does what it's told. And that the hypnotist never tells you to open your eyes. They say, try to open your eyes. So you're only trying and you're doing what it would feel like to try to open your eyes. So that's why trying to do things doesn't really work that well. Allowing yourself to flow, allowing yourself to receive those ideas rather than trying to force them. So much more powerful. So what I was thinking now is for the last 20 minutes, I'm actually perfectly on time for where I wanted to be right now. I'm so proud of myself because sometimes I talk for too long. Which is funny because if you know me in real life, I'm a very quiet person, but when I do these things, I can just, because I just do the stream of consciousness, it can take a little longer than planned. But what I wanted to do was kind of do a short guided meditation, kind of bringing you through that process of self-hypnosis so you can experience it with me guiding you. And then you can kind of learn how to do that on your own as well. And then do some of those intuitive journaling prompts. So if you have a pen and paper handy, have that nearby for the end. So I'm going to have a couple sips of water and go ahead and make yourself comfortable. Now, when I'm doing like full hypnosis, I want to make sure you're like having your head supported and all that kind of stuff. But with self-hypnosis, because it's a much lighter state of hypnosis most of the time, especially when we're doing brainstorming and, you know, actually doing stuff in it, probably not so important, but that's okay. Sometimes when I do self-hypnosis and I do lay down, that's when I end up falling asleep. So just to note, you might want to stay, you know, sitting upright when you're doing self-hypnosis because it helps you stay a little bit more aware while you're still letting your subconscious mind take over and your conscious mind go away, not too much so you don't fall asleep. So go ahead and make yourself comfortable. Put your hands on your lap or by your side. You may want to rub them together. You may want to give yourself a hug, like I said before. Do whatever feels right for you to kind of calm yourself down, closing your eyes. And now take a nice, big, deep breath in and exhale slowly. Good. And now take another slow, deep breath in and hold it for a few seconds. And as you exhale, simply imagine any tightness or tension beginning to easily melt away, just like wax melts off a candle. And if you can imagine it in your mind, your body will respond, allowing you to relax a bit more with each and every exhale. And now breathe in deeply again. And as you exhale, quietly say to yourself, I give myself permission to relax and have this experience. Perfect. And now, as you continue breathing all the way in and all the way out, focus on the idea of creativity. And what does creativity feel like for you? Perhaps you imagine creativity in some part of your mind. Perhaps it's in your heart. Perhaps it's outside of you. However you imagine creativity is perfect. And just bring that into your awareness now, bringing it closer. And now breathe in deeply again. And as you exhale slowly, focus all your attention on the top of your head. And imagine that floating just above you is a beautiful ball of light. And that light can be any size, any color. Just knowing that it represents the most calming, peaceful energy you can imagine. Perhaps it even represents creativity. And as you contemplate this ball of light, it begins to shimmer and swirl, shifting around almost as if it were liquid. And this calming, peaceful, creative liquid now begins to flow down through the top of your head and spread throughout every part of your body, down through your head and face, relaxing every part of you, through your neck, your shoulder, your back, down through your arms, through your chest, through your stomach, through your hips and pelvis, relaxing each and every part of you, down through your legs, your knees, your shins and calves, your ankles, all the way down to the tips of your toes, filling you with this calm, peaceful energy, bringing your mind, body, and spirit into complete harmony, ready to receive creativity, ready to receive your inner guidance, ready to receive messages from your higher self and the universe. And now, once again, tune into creativity, picturing it however you imagine it, knowing that how you imagine it is perfect. Perhaps it's a person or a being, perhaps it's a feeling, perhaps it's an image or a shape. It could even be a sound. However you imagine it is perfect. And now as you tune into creativity, ask creativity what it has to share with you today. And notice how it replies. Perhaps it sends you a feeling, perhaps images or ideas, thoughts, words. However it conveys its message is perfect. Knowing that you'll recall everything you're meant to recall from this session. And now take a few moments to ask creativity any other questions you may have for it. Whether it's about a certain aspect of life where you're looking to call in creativity. However you choose. And I'll be silent for a few moments while you connect with your creativity now, allowing it to guide you. And as your creativity continues communicating with you, notice if and when your intuition guides you to start writing, to start intuitively journaling these responses. And if you're ready, go ahead and start journaling. Or you can keep communicating with your creativity for a few more moments. Perfect. And now thank your creativity. And I'll give you about 5 minutes or so to intuitively journal. I know some of you have started a little earlier, so I'll give you about 5, maybe a little less. All right, take about another minute. And if you're done, just allow yourself to come back to the here and now, bringing yourself fully back into your body, fully in the room, bringing yourself out of hypnosis and back to full conscious awareness when you feel ready. And the little tiny homework assignment, and everyone who does this will get a recording of a similar, not the exact same recording, but a self-hypnosis recording to kind of guide you through this process. So all you have to do is share your experience from this meditation. You can do that in my Facebook group. You can email it, post it on your personal page and tag me. However you want to do it is fine, as long as I see it and know that you did it. We're good. So, and if you are watching the replay, just make sure you put hashtag replay in the comments. And yeah, so that's the super easy homework assignment, is just to share your experience from this self-hypnosis experience. Now, I wanted to share with you the course that I'm creating. It's basically taking this and just deepening it, taking it to the next level to really start bringing those ideas forward in a bigger way and really learning to cultivate them, find which ones really resonate with you, learning to trust your intuition in a whole new way, and really gaining more confidence in your creativity so you can really stop doubting those ideas and start turning them into a reality. So that's what the course is really all about. I'm going to put in the comments a wait list. I'm going to be emailing this out to people who are on the wait list first, because I'm really keeping this to a super limited number of people, because this is actually kind of a precursor to live in-person retreats that I am planning for probably about a year from now, if all goes as planned. So this is really just a beta run to kind of do this online virtually for a handful of people first. And it's going to be really, really, really well priced. It's a 4-week course. It is going to be Tuesdays at 7:30 Eastern time, where we are right now. So just 4 weeks for about an hour or so each time. And it's going to be priced at only $247. For everyone who signs up within the next 48 hours, you're also going to get an additional $50 off, not 50% off, $50 off. So it'll be $197. And you're also going to get a one-on-one session with me, a 30-minute session, to really start connecting with your inner guides to get in touch with your creativity. Now, why am I doing all this? Because I like working with people one-on-one, and it helps me to really get to know other people and their experiences so much better. Those 30-minute calls, generally I charge $200 for. So you're basically getting the 4-week course and that for, half the price. So if you want to know more, go ahead and sign up for the wait list, and I will send you that information shortly once we are done here. And it will include the sales page that goes into everything that's included in the course, all of the different details and all that kind of stuff that I don't want to bore you with, because you can read through that on your own. So does anyone have any questions before we are done here today, or anything that they want to share from their self-hypnosis experience? Let me know if you have any questions. You can go ahead and unmute yourself as well. Yes, Melissa.
Hi.
Hey.
So my experience was great, except that I had a lot of distractions from upstairs. So how do you sort of block that out?
So that is actually something that you can guide yourself to do. If when you're in the process, you tell yourself you're going to be focused only on this experience right now, and any other sounds or movements or sensations will only make you more relaxed, it will help you get more relaxed. So using those words, and it's particular with like using sounds versus noises, because noises automatically makes you feel irritated. So using the word sounds, using sensations rather than noises or distractions, just any other sounds or sensations will just help me feel more relaxed. And being very intentional with using those words helps to, set that intention to not let them bother you. It's all about really setting that intention that you're just going to be focused on the here and now and not that. And it's one of those things that, like, some people ask that question, like, well, if I'm tuning out the things, what if all of a sudden, like, the smoke alarm goes off? Your conscious mind, while it goes to the background, it's never gone. If anything bad happens, it will snap right back to it. And also, your subconscious mind's job is to keep you alive. If something was happening that was signifying that you were in danger, it would wake you up. It would make sure you were good. That's its job, is to keep you alive. So yeah, you're good. But that's one of the best ways, is just to set that intention.
I have
Anything
one
else?
more question. Yes.
Go for it.
So of course, because I'm crazy, I have these thinking now that I'm going to go into hypnosis and I'm never going to come out of it. I'm going to be stuck in the other world or whatever. Like, how do you, like, you know what I mean?
So because it's that state between awake and asleep, it also behaves like a normal sleep cycle. So if you did all of a sudden fall asleep when you went into hypnosis, so your awake is here, sleep is here, hypnosis kind of in the middle. The purpose of hypnosis is to stay here because that's where you're the most receptive. But eventually you're going to go one way or the other, because that's just the way our brains work. So you'll either wake up or you'll fall asleep and then wake up. So it will be a normal cycle. You really can't get stuck in hypnosis because it's something that we go in and out of all the time. Like,
Got it.
sometimes it might be better if we just stayed in hypnosis all the time. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know. It's nice and relaxing.
Kinder world. Okay.
Right. Doreen, did you have a question?
Yeah. How frequently do you use self-hypnosis? I know the purpose tonight is really about driving creativity, but how often are you using it?
I use it pretty much every day. Like I said, with working with spirit guides, I usually do it every morning. Not necessarily every morning, because sometimes mornings happen and I just don't have time. But it's one of those things that, like, as you get better and better at it, like, I catch myself sometimes at work, like if I'm getting irritated with people, I catch myself like taking big, deep breaths. And that in itself is self-hypnosis, because I know that one of the quickest ways to calm myself down is to make sure I'm breathing, because I have a tendency to hold my breath when I'm irritated. So if I force myself to breathe, it relaxes me. And that, again, is self-hypnosis in a sense. So it's one of those
I
things.
noticed that
I intentionally use it almost every morning, but there are other times that I know I bring it in, because when you learn how to do that so quickly, it's so easy that why wouldn't you? And that's why, like, it's one of those things that the more you practice it, the easier it gets.
I already meditate like 10 minutes or so in the morning and at night. So then I was thinking this could be a fun way to kind of shake that up a little.
Right. And it's also something that, like, if you're already meditating in the morning, this could like replace it, depending. Like, one of the biggest differences between meditation and self-hypnosis is simply the intention behind it. Where if you're meditating simply to relax, to kind of get your mind free from thoughts, then that's not necessarily self-hypnosis. Self-hypnosis is going into something with that specific intent. So that's really the big difference behind it. So, like, when there are so many guided meditations with like the intent of doing this, that's self-hypnosis. When it's meditation just to like bliss out, that's meditation. So it's one of those, like, all self-hypnosis is meditation in some way, but not all meditation is self-hypnosis. That makes sense?
Mhm.
So yeah, any other questions before we get going? And I will be sending out this recording to everyone either tonight or first thing tomorrow morning, depending on how long it takes to download and then re-upload and all that kind of stuff. But the recording will also stay in the Facebook group for another week or so. I think through the end of the month, I'll keep it up there. So if you have any questions on anything, please feel free to reach out. Thank you all for being here. And I will also be sending that recording for everyone who shares their experience in the group or on Facebook or by email or anything. Someone is sending me a message. Thank you. Thank you, Doreen. Thank you, Melissa. Yeah.
Melissa, where's the wait list thing?
Oh, let me grab where'd it go? Trying to do this is so complicated when I'm all on my own. I've got too many screens open. Let me drop this link here. Just the link. Here you go. So that's just like a little sign up, and it will put you on the list to get the email that will then give you all of the details and everything. Perfect. So, and if you have any questions on that, just message me, email me, Melissa, you have my number, text me, whatever. And I will see you all soon. And thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.